Hi everyone, welcome to episode 60 of Show Me How It's Done. Today I'm excited to show you a different sort of technique. We've done watercoloring and coloring on things before, but we've never actually done that on designer series paper. So I was having a lot of fun playing around with one of my new stamp sets. This is the Blessings of Home stamp set, and it can be found in our new January to June catalog. And this stamp is just perfect for blends, for your watercolor pencils, for any sort of coloring tools that you want to use it for. So I have done two different cards. One I'm going to demonstrate for you today, and the other I'll just show you because it's very similar in the idea. But we're going to use the Blessings of Home stamp as well as the dies. The dies not so much for this one, the dies are on the other one, okay? So they do coordinate quite nicely. And then the designer paper that I'm using is the coordinating package here, this Heart and Home. So on the one side, you have really beautiful floral patterns, kind of nice colors for you to match with those cards. And then on the other side of them, on all of the papers, there's a gorgeous wood grain that is what we're going to use today to actually do our stamping and our coloring on, because it's so subtle that you can easily stamp right over top of it in color, and then you've got a really gorgeous background for the rest of your pieces. So if you want to follow along with me, I will give you the measurements for the pieces that I'm going to use. And you're welcome to join me. And if you want to just watch and enjoy, that is great as well. So let's get all your pieces cut to start, okay? So we're going to need a card base, and I chose to use our crumb cake. You can easily substitute in for another brown. Soft suede would look great, or even the craft paper would look really nice. So this cardstock is cut at 5.5 by 8.5. And I've scored at 4 1/4. Now for a couple different layers, one for the outside and one for the inside, you'll need two matching pieces of rich razzleberry. These measure 4 inches by 5 1/4, and they can be identical. Then for the outside of our card, we need that designer paper that I mentioned. So you can choose any paper from that package. We're going to do a little fold or like rounding corners. So pick something that you don't mind the look of, the other side. So that piece, I've chosen this one here because I really just like the straightforward look. I'm going to cut this one at 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And for the inside of my card, something to write on here, this piece is white and it's also 3 3/4 by 5 inches. So we're going to do all of our work on the designer series paper first, and then we'll add detail to the other pieces. So go ahead and put those aside, and you probably will want something under your workspace. So I'm just going to grab a little scrap of paper here and this. Now I'm using black embossing powder just because I really love the look of the embossed black lines. If you don't want to do that extra step of embossing your flower, you can also just stamp this in Memento Black and put it onto your paper. But I really love the look that you get and the nice buffering that you get when we use a an embossed black on here, okay? So I've mounted my largest stamp. I'm going to grab my sticky Versamark ink and stamp all over that. And then it's totally up to you where you want your flowers to be. Sorry, I moved that. You can see on mine, I kind of just have them, the first set in the top corner here. And I'm going to move quickly because I want to get that powder on. And the second set, I'm going to put on the left-hand side of my card. Okay, so totally up to where you want it. Now we're going to grab our black embossing powder, and I like to do this in a little tray here. It kind of just keeps me a little sane. So I'm going to sprinkle embossing powder all over here, and then when I'm done, this tray has a little spout so I can actually just pour it all right back in. You can use a folded piece of paper or a plate or anything you want, but the tray is nice for me to use. Okay, so as soon as you stand that up, now you can see you've got your great black flowers on here. And this looks stunning as it is. So this is my little segue too, that if you don't want to sit here and do all this coloring work, this is really pretty. You could grab a tag, you could layer the card up just like we're going to do, and you actually have a really stunning card as it is. Maybe you'd even want to just color like one or two of the focal pieces and leave the rest black. But before you do any of that, we do need to grab our heat tool and we need to set this powder, because if I was to brush it right now, it would all come off. So that's not great. So you won't be able to hear me, but what you're going to need to watch for is my powder changing from like this matte look to a shiny black look. So I have to, my cord doesn't reach very far. I'm just going to stop there for a second. Hopefully you can see this part here is now starting to get really glossy. The rest of this is still pretty matte. So this is what you're looking for, this glossy look, and then you can continue working. Cord really doesn't want to reach. There we go. Sorry. You can see I have one flower nicely done and the other one still needs to go. Don't be afraid to take your time. You don't want to burn or wreck your paper. There we go. You do just want to make sure it's all glossy. Okay, so now the fun begins. You can choose to color with some watercolor pencil crayons like we're going to do today, or you can grab yourself some blends and color that way. But I kind of wanted to play with my watercolor pencils. So if you want to use the same colors that I'm using on my project, and I'll just hide that guy over here. There we go. The colors I've chosen are Gorgeous Grape, Rich Razzleberry, Old Olive, Calypso Coral, and Daffodil Delight. And those are all found in assortment number 1, I believe, of the watercolor pencils. So you can start wherever you want. I'm going to just do some messy scribbling inside the flowers that I want to use the Gorgeous Grape for. And this is where our blender pens are going to come in handy, because I don't have to sit here and make this super beautiful. I can just messy color, and then my blender pens are going to smooth out all of those rough edges. Okay, I think I've got a few more up here. And let's flip that. It's totally up to you how you do this. You can do colors in whatever order you'd like. And I like to lay down all my colors first, and then I go and add my blenders. Just kind of gets things out of my way a little bit. Leaves are all going to be the Old Olive. So however you want to do that. I know there's definitely some shading techniques you can do here, but we have a lot to color, so you don't need to watch me color forever. Scribbling in all these different areas. Make sure you get everything that kind of looks like it's the leaf portion. And then we're going to grab rich razzleberry. These are going to be my big flowers. Of course, you can use anything you want, but I like the focal rich razzleberry because it matches our paper in the background there. And the center is going to be that yellow Daffodil Delight color. I know sometimes I look at coloring things and I think it's a little bit scary to do, but when you're doing it like this, and you can just scribble all over the place, I hopefully have taken away a little bit of that anxiety for you. Okay. So make sure you've got at least a little bit of color everywhere in every flower. Okay. The blender pens will also help you spread some of this out, so don't worry about hitting every white spot. But now that we have this messily colored, let's turn this into this. So you're going to take your blender pen, and now I do suggest starting from the lightest color to the darkest. So we're going to make sure we've got a clean pen. If you scribble on the side and it runs clear, you're good to go. So in this yellow section, you're going to just gently go over all those sections here and blend those colors together. Okay, you can already see how lovely this looks compared to this scribbled section. And like I said, if you really want to get detailed, you would come back with your crayon again, do a little bit of shading and different technique, but we're just intending to color the space in. Okay, so rub this off now until it runs clear and go to your next lightest color. That's going to be the Calypso Coral. So I'm going to color all those flower areas that have that color. Okay. And you probably still have lots of color on your pen, so you can always come and just kind of add a little bit of detail where Stampin' Up! Has done that on their card, and then move on to your next flower as well. Okay, so I'm moving probably a little quicker than I usually would just because I want to get this all colored for you. I have a couple other things to show you too, but it looks stunning this way. Okay, I have colored that. Always remember to scribble on the side. And my next color then would be the rich razzleberry. So I'm going to start probably from the inside of the petal here, working my way to the outside so that my darkest color is staying on the inside here. There we go. Beautiful. Look how pretty it's looking. I just like seeing it come to life. It's like embossing powder, where it just looks very dull and boring when you first apply it, and then as soon as you add heat, or in this case, the blender pen, you get something that is so fun. There we go. Get all those edges. Get those flowers. Okay, my rich razzleberry is done. I'm moving on. I'm going to do my leaves in the old olive color. These would also be your equivalent colors if you decided to use blends for this card and just color instead. Use the light and darks. Just make sure you're getting all the leaves, because you don't want one with that messy coloring look when everything else is nicely blended together. Okay, and last but not least, we're going to finish off with our purple gorgeous grape. Tie those flowers in. And then when you're done, you can also take a second just to make sure that you've covered all the spots you wanted to. It's okay if there are some white spots, like there might be a little white gap, and that's just part of the image. But make sure you haven't missed a whole flower or something like that right now. And the purple is a very domineering color, so you can easily, you know, fill in a spot with this color here. Okay, so there is my beautiful coloring job, which I'm so happy with. It's turned out very nicely. Now, before I put this on my card, I want to add a few texture elements. So you'll notice I've kind of done a little bit of ripping along my edges. So what I'm going to do is take a pair of scissors and open them up, and then just on the one edge of them, if you rub it across the top of your paper, you'll notice the more that you rub, the more ruffled it gets. It goes from this nice straight look to like a ripped, ruffly look. And that's what you want. You want it to go like that all the way around your card, kind of rip that nice, clean look. And you can go forwards and backwards on there, okay? Move back and forth in the same spot if you're worried. So all the way around your card is where we want this technique. And you kind of want to pinch your thumb and your finger just up near the top so the paper doesn't bend all the way on you. But don't stab yourself. That wouldn't be good. Okay, so just rubbing, rubbing, rubbing. If you want more texture, of course, you're going to rub more, right? So we're just adding a little bit of texture. We've kind of just lightened up the edges. But I did want to do some curling here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take one of my pencils, and because this edge has some embossing on it, the heat, when I bring my heat tool in, is going to kind of melt it a little bit. So it's going to hopefully hold this in place a little. So you're going to bend further than you intend to. You can spritz a little bit of water on here if you want. Like just take, say you have a glass of water and you want to just kind of like touch a little bit of water in there. It will help hold it in place, but you don't need that a lot if you have an embossed edge. Okay, so let's just do this. And I'm going to grab my heat tool and I'm going to heat this part to hold it a little bit. So it doesn't need to be too much. Just hold it for a couple seconds. And I have gone way past where I need it to go because when it unravels, then I have a little bit more potential to kind of pick and choose. Well, that held very nicely where I want this to go. Okay, so there's one edge, and I will put some adhesive here so that'll flatten a little bit. And I'm going to do my opposite too. This one I'll do without water. Even just bending will already move it quite a bit for you. So there we go. And then you decide kind of how much of a curve you want. Okay, so there is my look for my project so far, but I need to work on my base pieces. So let's put this aside and let's get out some of those base pieces. So first, we're going to work on the inside of our card. So that's going to be one piece of rich raspberry, one white, and you can grab your base as you're going. So for me, I wanted to do a little bit of stamping here on the inside. So very quick and easy. I'm going to quickly wash my stamp because it's got that sticky Versamark on it. My beautiful Simply Chamois. Doesn't this guy look well loved? And I just keep it in a old stamp case so that it ends up drying out a little slower than it would otherwise. And now I'm going to stamp before I attach my pieces together, okay? So that I can get that nice flower off the edge of the page look. And again, not using the whole stamped image, just part of it. That's all we're gonna put in the bottom corner. Now you can go ahead and build your layers. So I'm using a flat adhesive. You can use tape or seal or even glue, whatever you prefer. I am definitely just a double-sided tape person, and I've had people ask me before why, like, do I not like the seal? I just got into the habit of doing it because I was working on so many 3D boxes and cards interchangeably that it was just easiest back when we had snail that wasn't as strong, to use this at the same time. But now I'm equally happy, and I just kind of like that you guys can see the tape usually, and it slows me down a little bit when I'm crafting in front of you. So you can see where I'm putting my adhesives when I use the tape here. Okay, so taped both the white layer and the rich raspberry layer. And we're gonna make sure our card's opened the right way. Put your little base in here, like so. Now I thought it was really cute to do a little bit of stamping on my rich raspberry piece as well. So I'm using the same rich raspberry ink. And I'm just gonna do this on the two corners that we curled so that you can see underneath here a little bit of flower detail. And you probably wouldn't see it unless you're holding the card, but you can see it's just very subtle, but it is nice to kind of have a different texture and focal point for those two corners. Okay, so that's kind of our fun look for us right now. And you will want to clean that off right away too, so it doesn't set with a dark color. But this one here, I'm popping up on dimensionals when I add it to the card. So I'm gonna just flip that over and put dimensionals on the back here. Like so. And I wanted that just to separate from my card a little bit to kind of give me a bit of a shadow between the layers. Okay, so there's my gorgeous card, and I actually think this could be kind of a card in and of itself if we wanted to play with it like this. But let's move that out of our way and add our final touches. So now on this piece here, I'm going to turn it over, and I'm not going to put adhesive all the way around because of course we want those corners to stay rounded. So wherever you're happy, you're like, okay, I like this bend, right in the back of it, make sure you've got some adhesive to hold things together. Do that with the opposite corner too, okay? So this will be the point where your corner no longer bends off the page, it's attached. And then you can add, of course, a little bit to these two corners down here, however you would like. This one you probably do want to keep a little flatter than normal, just so that those corners really stand out. But it's totally up to you. You don't really need a lot in the middle, just along these edges is the main focus. Okay, so that's kind of what mine looks like at the moment. I've just got my perimeter, but I didn't go to the corners. I just did along the edge. Okay, so now you can turn this however you want. I would suggest putting your two corner pieces down first. Make sure they are nicely situated so they've got a bit of a border on the top and bottom. And now directly across, you've got this. Now just gently glide your hand up and push down on that one section, okay? And now you can just kind of manhandle it a little bit if your curl came out more than you wanted. So push down, once again, come back and just bend this and twirl it into place however you wanted your look. Okay? They don't have to be even, of course. Now to decorate in the middle, I found that the dies from this set here, let me show you. They were built very much to coordinate with the perimeter of the large flower and decoration. So there wasn't really a label for me to use with the stamps here. So what I did was I just went to our annual catalog, and one of my favorite go-to sets right now is the Tasteful Labels dies. It has dies of all different shapes. Some have stitching, some have embossing, and that's just what I went to. I went with this large, kind of fun looking shape one. Oh no, sorry, I went with the straighter lines one for this one, but the fun shapes are great too. And all I did was I embossed with white a sentiment on that. Okay, so this one I used the What a Beautiful Day for Love, and then this one is Thank You for Inspiring Me. So before I attach it, I really love this metallic mesh. It carried over from our catalogs last year, and I'm really glad it did because it just adds such a subtle feature to my cards. And so that's what I'm going to use today. Is I'm going to cut myself a piece that's kind of just longer on both sides than what I need. And if you actually just fold it in half and cut at a diagonal, you can get, oh, haha, I did that the wrong way. Fold it and go outward. There we go. You can get kind of a banner look. So I'll do that on the other side too. Fold it in half and cut upward. Gives you this banner look. Okay, so I ended up attaching this just at a diagonal to the back of my card. And I thought it was kind of fun if I scrunched it. So I'm just going to kind of scrunch it together and attach this centerpiece to the back. That's all I'm attaching. I'm not attaching anything else. The rest I'll be fluffing out on the card later. But while it's turned over, let's get those dimensionals on there, because this can now be attached to your card. Okay, so turn that over, and I thought it would fit really well in this bottom space here. And now you can go ahead and fluff things out. You can keep that banner look, but then down near the card, it will be kind of pressed together. And then if you find, hey, I think this is maybe a little long, go ahead and trim it, but don't be afraid to just leave it a little long too. This will bend and stay in your envelope, but we'll do a little trimming on this bottom piece. Okay, so there's one, and now my top is really long. Give a little haircut and give a little mesh. So this just kind of gives it a really subtle but fun look. And then if you want to top it off, there are some really nice classic matte dots as part of the set as well. They come in black, gray, cream, and white. And so I'm just going to use the cream ones today and add a couple of those to the bottom and one up in the top, just to add a little bit of character to my card. So there you guys go. I hope you enjoyed the different coloring technique and maybe kind of thought outside the box today with being willing to color or do something straight onto your designer series paper. You can stamp on this stuff, you can emboss on it, you can color on it, and then you have a gorgeous background that you haven't had to do any other work for. And I did mention I have one more card to show you. So that would be this card here. It's very similar in the idea of, you know, using the flowers as the perimeter. I did use designer series paper as a focal point in the back, but I didn't stamp directly on it. Instead, I stamped on white, I used blends to color, and then I cut out 3 flowers to put around the perimeter of my card using this green designer series paper once again as the backdrop of the card. So it's just another idea. This is what the blends could look like with your card. And then of course you can use some of those elements and sentiments from the stamp set to finish this card off for yourselves. But there you go, a couple different ideas for you, whether you want to use watercolor pencils and blends, blending brush or marker, or blends markers. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you need anything or have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I am here in Canada and you can shop online for anything you see here. Talk to you later. Bye.